handoff to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into Pater. A one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another Bring the Juice Colts podcast live stream. Guys, I know we didn't get a chance to talk about Chris Ballard and Frank Reich's post-draft day 3 presser. Was just so busy with so many other draft concepts that were going on and dealing with also talking with Morocco Brown that night as well. So, you know, a lot was going on during that time frame, so I didn't have time to react to it. But I figured today, with all of you being here, that we could just interact with that today, kind of get a feeling for what they had to say at the end of day 3. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of our day 3 picks. I know a lot of people said, you know, a lot of names that we've not really heard of before, but again, it kind of went with the same concept that they went into with day 2 and 3. I appreciate everyone being in here. Thank you so much for all your support. Be sure to like the stream, guys. If you haven't already, gets it out to more people. Thank you to the 100+ of you in here already. So greatly appreciate you guys. Again, be sure to like, comment in the chat, and subscribe if you haven't already. We've had over 150 new subscribers over the span of this last draft weekend, so I greatly appreciate that. Thank you guys again so much for the support on all the videos recently. All the draft videos did really, really well. Couldn't be happier. Did much better than they did the previous year with all the videos around, so greatly appreciate you guys supporting the channel. But thank you guys again so much for tuning into this. We're going to hop right into this thing. I'm going to share my screen with you all, and then we can get started and listening to this. Thank you all again so much for tuning into this today. And we will go ahead and get started. Let's see what we got here. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you. And again, for anyone that wonders, this is Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, day 3 post-draft presser live. Here we go.
So good, good weekend for us. Commend our staff, both scouts and coaches working together and making sure we got players that we all liked and got the talent that we look for and, the character that we look for. But excited going forward about all these guys we got. So fire away.
So Reggie Wayne's been here 10 minutes and he gets his guy as soon as he walks in the door.
Yeah.
I heard the question from before, but I'll just, in case anyone didn't hear it. So Reggie Wayne's been in the door for 10 minutes and he's already got the receiver that he likes. Yeah, that was funny. I mean, they did say, Alec Pierce was Reggie Wayne's guy. He really wanted Alec Pierce. And I think Ballard and company are glad that they were able to get the guy that Reggie Wayne wanted and is excited to teach. And that's a great thing.
That's exactly how it works. Now, look, Reggie's been great. Reggie's going to be a good coach. Frank will tell you, we've been on this with Reggie for a few years now. And then, finally the time was right for Reg, but he's the same, he's attacking it the same way he did as a player. He's works, he's diligent, he's thorough. He's got a lot of knowledge to teach. He's got to grow as a coach, like, any young coach, but Reggie's got a lot of talent. And I think he's going to be really good. And I think he's going to be great for that room.
You guys always go for athletic, but this was like an exceptionally athletic class. Was there some sort of emphasis, something new you needed to do this year?
No, I don't think it's any different. Maybe it sticks out a little more this year, but I think every year we've got certain things that we're looking, we got bottom lines that we're looking for. And if they don't have them, they usually don't make our board. So, we're always looking for athletic, unique traits that we want to take.
So interesting. And thank you again for everyone in the chat with the nice comments. Greatly appreciate you guys for all that support and that the kind words. Thank you. Very interesting that Ballard said this. And thank you again. Be sure to like the stream, guys, if you haven't already, please. Thank you to 160 of you in here. Ballard said that they asked about the athletic ability of all these players, right? I asked Morocco Brown in our Colts content creator group when the media availability came open for that. I asked him a very similar question to this, almost exactly the same question. I asked him, you look at the athletic scores of the guys that we drafted, right? And you saw the numbers, like the athletic scores for all of these guys, just phenomenal. Like, I mean, they pop off the board, right? And I asked him, like, was that something that you guys came into the draft process really looking at, or was that just something that happened? And, he said the same thing. It came down to traits, having those unique traits. I mean, they said they never really do go out of their way to get the most athletic guys, but, when it came to everything that went down to it, having those physical, unique traits is something that gets these guys on their board, right? And that's what, that with all of these guys being athletic, that was one of the things that they all had in common, was that they all had a physical athletic ability that they liked. And that was one of the traits, if not many traits, that a bunch of these draft picks had. So that was one of the reasons why they got these guys like that. It wasn't specifically due to their athletics, but that was one trait that all these guys had. And one of those unique traits was athletic ability. So, I asked something very similar to this. So glad Ballard and Morocco were on the same page with that.
Curious for your thought process as you welcome Matt in and you tweak the offense a little bit, and you didn't add anything on offense in free agency, and you added a lot in the last couple of days. What were you guys looking for specifically to surround him that would make his life a little bit easier?
You're always looking for playmakers, guys who can make plays in the clutch, make plays in third down, red zone, chunk plays, looking for guys who are in the skill position room who are, not just great playmakers, but unselfish. Because we move guys around, spread it around. And both these guys that we got early are big time. They hit all those, they check all those boxes.
They got to come in, they got to practice, they got to earn it. But is Pierce a guy that could play significantly in year one? You feel like he could step in and really contribute to that room right away?
Yeah, it's going to be it's the same every year. We were talking about this as an offensive staff the other day before the draft ever even started. We're just saying, this year, as much as any year, like in these skills, there is no depth chart. We're just competing. We're rolling and roll guys through. It's the NFL in a sense. Everybody knows that's the way. That's what's great about these guys. They all know that we're going to put the best guys on the field. So we'll roll through. Everybody got a chance to compete.
And I think that it's very interesting, them asking about Alec Pierce and everything else. I think a lot of people just have this fake notion that, Alec Pierce is supposed to come in and dominate the game right away. Frank Reich, and this is something that I think a lot of us understand once the season starts, but we don't understand it until it actually gets there, is that, the Colts are never really selfish when it comes to trying to get one player involved, right? They are one of the better teams in the NFL about spacing it out. And honestly, even though it doesn't always seem like it, that's why the Colts offense continues to remain so effective throughout the years. Again, over the last 2 seasons, the Colts have actually been the 9th best offense in the NFL. And that sometimes gets thrown out because we just look at all the bad, but a lot of times we look at the good, and, you got to look at the good and you got to understand what makes this Colts team so good. And a lot of times it's due to the fact that, they don't ever rely on one specific guy to take over and be a number one thing. Obviously you have Jonathan Taylor for that at times. You want to be able to run the football with Jonathan Taylor and establish that run game. But, in the passing game specifically, the Colts are very unselfish about how they approach it. They try to get every single person involved and not just try to limit themselves to one specific player in that offense. So kind of a good thing there.
It does seem like overall that was a hallmark of this draft. Like, I don't know how many of these guys come in and start, but it does seem you've added some competition. And did your team need that right now?
I think we needed an influx of youth. You know, we're young. I tell you, we're still pretty young, but you know, it's the group from 18. You know, now they're 4 years in the league, and we, you know, one of our big objectives was we wanted to add as many good young talented players as we could to create as much competition as we could. Look, we all know what makes people better, having to compete. And we think we've added some guys that's going to, you know, push that competition to the level, you know, to another level.
Chris, what was it?
Competition.
That you needed that, or at all positions?
Well, I think in the draft, you know, at wideout, we had 2 tight ends, adding another safety to the group, which, you know, I didn't really get into Nick as much yesterday, but, you know, I don't know if it was definitely a need, but here he was sticking out on the board, and we said, you know what, we need to go get Nick Cross. We think he's a really talented player. And he's going to add a lot of, talent to the back end. And then and our thoughts on the front. I mean, you know, we always want to keep our eye on it. So both offense and defensive line, you know, being able to get 2 athletic defensive tackles that fit kind of what we want I thought that was really good by our group, identifying those type of talent that they needed to have.
So, I mean, again, we talked about it. I talked a little bit about it with my brother on the way to into the car before I got over here. You know, we were talking about it, and thank you to the 200 people in here right now. Shout out to all of you. Thank you for the support. I just think that we're talking about Nick Cross, and we're like, wow, the Colts actually traded up like 80 spots to go get him, right? Because you think about it, that 122 pick that we had, that got traded with Minnesota, so we had to give that up. And then you had pick 159, but then you gave up 179 to go and, you know, and then gave up a third to give Nick Cross. Again, adding and at a position that wasn't of a need. You know, the Colts really didn't need Nick Cross, but they said, this guy's sticking out on the board right now. We're amazed that he's still there. What a phenomenal player that he is. We need to go and get this guy. I mean, because this guy could be, you know, just a game changer for this team. And, you know, that was what they said. I mean, that was their rationale for getting Nick Cross, because, you know, a guy that size and that athletic at that position and fitting into the scheme of what the defense they're trying to run with Gus Bradley. I mean, they said it was a home run situation for them. They think it's going to be a fantastic play. I mean, you don't go up and get a guy like that unless you really, really wanted him at that spot. And again, this is Ballard taking a shot on a guy that's not in a position of need, but of a player that you think you can't go without. I mean, Jonathan Taylor was the same thing. We saw what happened there. I mean, if Nick Cross is anything like what we saw with Jonathan Taylor ends up being, I mean, good Lord, that safety room with Cross and Blackman. Oh my gosh, that is scary. And, you know, we're talking about the defensive tackles quite a bit over the last few days. It was very surprising to see. It was very surprising to see that Ballard, you know, went with defensive tackles mostly in this draft rather than getting some interior offensive line depth. Not sure if they'll, not sure if they're going to end up talking about it or not on this, but I mean, getting defensive tackle depth was definitely something that they needed to do. I asked Morocco Brown about Curtis Brooks and whether he was surprised that he would have fell all the way to the 6th round, and, you know, ended up saying, you know, we weren't insanely surprised at that. I'm surprised that he did, but said that, you know, he plays the game the way that we want him to. And I'm excited to see what they do there. I'm curious to see if these media guys ask him at all about the interior offensive line depth or taking too many guys at too many spots here.
You take what the draft gives you. You can't force it. So by and large, did it give you what you needed? Or do you walk away thinking, boy, I wish?
You always wish you had more picks, You know,
I love the picks.
when I was sitting there in the 4th round, I was like, God, dog, man. You wish you had. I think Baltimore had 6 of them. It's like watching myself bleed, getting them to take all those players.
Yeah, I was feeling the same way as Ballard. I was like, man, we had a phenomenal day 2, but the problem is we're gonna have a slow ass start to the 3rd day because Ballard. I'm sure it sucked sitting back for what was it, 2 hours, 2.5 hours until you could actually pick for the first time in that day 3. I mean I think the Ravens had about 20% of the 4th round draft picks. So yeah, it was crazy, man. It was crazy.
But no, I mean, it's good. You always wish you could take more. I mean, like I tell y'all, that's you want to get as many shots as you can, to take talent, and the more picks you got, the better chance for the hit rate's going to be.
What do you know about the draft right now that you didn't know in 17 and 18 when you started?
Oh God, I was clueless early. I'm not clueless, just more no doubt. There is no doubt there is. I've always been a very patient person anyways, but I think I've matured in that way where I don't ever panic when something happens that we didn't expect. I mean, and Lord knows I've had a lot of freaking practice at that. And just having patience, knowing the league, understanding what other teams are looking for, and then, kind of where we got players on the board, and do we really have a chance? I mean, just take, for example, when we moved back, having enough faith, and, Frank and I have been together long enough to where, he's not, he has enough faith in us that we're still going to get, good players when we do move back.
Yeah. I mean, that's just like any job, right? You learn a lot over the span of years doing something so many times, from the first couple years that he was doing it, got really good in 2018. I mean, that draft is one of the best drafts that you've ever had. But yeah, 2017, he struck out on quite a few picks, and, 2019 was a little bit of a struggle. But now in 2020, 2021, he did pretty decent. We think that that's going to turn out to be okay. And obviously here in 2022, just based on paper, we see, we're all kind of happy with some of the picks that they had. Right. And that's just like with anything, you get more experience, you become more patient, you understand things as they go along. And, he was talking about the trading back scenario. I tweeted about this earlier, and I don't remember who asked it. I don't know if I asked it or not in the media availability yesterday, but asking about, was it I think I did ask about that, and Morocco just kind of alluded to it here, saying that, when it came to where they were at 42, I think it was actually Lawrence that may have asked the question. I'm not sure, but they asked about them trading back and how comfortable they were doing it. And they said that, they felt comfortable because they had so many guys available at 42. I'm guessing it was Alec Pierce. I'm sure it was Sky Moore. I'm sure it was Raymond. I'm sure it was guys like that, like a bunch of guys that were still there at 70 something. And then there was Woods. All these other guys, they were so comfortable with the fact that they had so many guys available at that 42 pick. They're like, okay, we're going to go back. We're going to try to acquire another pick because we feel comfortable even at 53 still being able to get one of the guys that we actually wanted. So, just to kind of give you guys an understanding of their mentality, that was what they were thinking. They had so many players available at 42 that they liked, that they were like, okay, let's just add another pick because we still feel comfortable even going back 11 spots. We still feel that one of those guys is going to be there that we want. So, I mean, that was great.
Never get tested. I mean, use this draft as an example. Coming in, of course, on the outside, need receivers, need tight ends because of what you guys have lost this offseason. Do you ever find yourself saying, maybe I should deviate on how I want to put a roster together?
I always think there's an answer. It might not be the answer everybody likes, but there's always going to be an answer that you can hold the fort with. Might not be the perfect answer. But between now and I always say start of the season in October, you're going to find an answer to help you win. And why panic? You know, everybody gets in a rut, like you got a hole, and if you don't fill it right away, they're not going to win. Well, that's not always the case. I think when you get into the season, you know, you've got to figure out what your team can do and what they're good at and where the holes are, and then fix them. So now, I mean, you know, I guess I disagree sometimes with just because we're not the first ones out of the gate in free agency doesn't mean we're doing it the wrong way.
We see the videos where you got
Again, talking about, you know, the trying to find that right strategy to win, right? I mean, I mean, every single one of us, I'm sure, including myself, is guilty of this, of, you know, being critical of Ballard in this regime and not being more aggressive at the start of free agency, right? I mean, we all had our shots at him. I was too. And I've been out here and I've said, I apologize for all that, because Ballard has made me eat my words, right? That we got a better quarterback, we got a better cornerback, we got a better defensive end, and we did all of that just in free agency, and we didn't even get a free agent up until that point. We had to trade for those, and then obviously Stephon Gilmore is the free agent. So yeah, I mean, I was one of those people, and you know, I mean, the Colts obviously had that patient approach, and it has worked so far, especially now that we've seen what we've seen from free agency in the draft.
That's going back and forth with the scouts and everything. Do people try to, in your front office, try to get you to I consider you're pretty darn stubborn in my eyes when it comes to free agency at times. Do you have people in your ear saying, hey, come on, Chris, maybe we should try to get this guy, spend this amount of money?
I think I would tell you our staff does a tremendous job of putting value on where we think their value is. You know, they're studying them all year. This is how he fits us. This is what he can do. And look, anytime you overpay and you don't get that value out of him, I mean, everybody feels really good in March.
Thank you again for the 300 people in here. Be sure to like the stream, comment, and subscribe, guys. Thank you so very much.
But then they got to play in September. I mean, we forget that. And they better play at the level you're paying them at, because if they don't, not only do the locker room, like I always worry about the locker room, they know exactly who's, you know, they're not stupid. They know exactly what each person in there is making and their performance level. I mean, I don't always keep that on my mind.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, we a lot of times as fans don't quite understand that. I mean, you know, I think we talked about how many raise a hands of every person that's in this chat. How many of you actually have made a joke about Christian Kirk and the Jags, right? Like who in here has made a joke about that? Because I think we all could agree that Christian Kirk should not be making over $20 million a year, but we made that joke, right? Because I mean, the Jaguars probably screwed up in doing that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. But I mean, you know, we trash them all the time for doing it. And sure enough, I mean, it's kind of ironic, you know, that we talk about this every single year. The Jags spend more money in free agency every year than what any other team does. But yet somehow, some way, their team always ends up last. And yet the Colts spend some of the littlest amount of money, and yet we continue to perform at a higher level than Jacksonville does. So, you know, I mean, I think it's kind of funny how we just don't understand that sometimes.
Competition just now, 2 tight ends. I know it's always a point of emphasis for you, but just what does that room look like right now in your mind?
Yeah, I feel good about that room. As you know, the offense really wants to be tight end centric in some ways. A lot of playmaking goes on in the middle of the field. You get unique matchups. There's a lot of things you can do formationally. There's a lot of things you can do when you put multiple tight ends on the field at the same time. But you always want to have enough good players that you can put those different personnel groups on the field. And, you know, it's interesting. We go into this draft every year, and I think I say to Chris every year, and the team, there's a sense where as a coach where, you know, you love your guys, the guys you already have on our roster.
I'll say this to Frank's point about the tight end centric ability. I think that's a great idea, because me personally, I've been saying it all along that the tight end is one of the most underappreciated positions when it comes to Super Bowl teams. I could argue that the tight end is more important than the wide receiver position at a lot of times. You just look at some of the last Super Bowl winners. I mean, I would argue 4 of the last 5 Super Bowl winners have won the Super Bowl based off of, you know, having the best tight end. You know, I would argue that. And, you know, and he's right that, you know, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the middle of the field that you can really take advantage of if you know how to use your tight ends and your receivers. And, you know, the Colts run 2 tight end sets more than anyone else in the NFL, right? Because, you know, you feel confident in running the football. And that's what you can do with guys like Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods out there now, you know, and not only that, but guys that, you know, can go out and catch and be able to still block at any given notice, you know. So the Colts idea of trying to be more tight end centric in the offense, I think, is a great thing. I think it should be that way, because then you take a lot of focus off of the wide receivers, especially. And then that opens up a lot of things on the outsides if you're trying to focus on the inside of the field.
And so I always start with the mentality like, hey, we don't need any draft picks. We're good. Anything we get in the draft is a bonus. I really feel like that. Like I don't make that up. I really do feel that way. But that being said, you know, there's a lot of players that I'm telling, you know, Chris and I are talking about, I love that guy, or, you know, I'm listening to what Chris and his staff are saying, and we're engaging, and, oh, love that guy. Yeah, I see it the exact same way, or this. So when we get to add pieces, it's fun, and it makes us, you hear us talk about, we want to be multiple, and it starts inside out, and the tight end position is really important.
Do you feel like you got away from that late in the season? Like middle of the field, tight end being effective?
I don't know if we got away from it. You adapt and adjust as you go to do what's working, to try to get the ball where it needs to go for every game. So we're always going to do that week by week, play by play. As you guys know, we talk about it all the time. How do we put the guys in the best position? That's a never-ending discussion, that with who's available and how healthy is the team, that's how we do it.
You like Pierce on the inside, outside, both?
I like him on the outside. I mean, I think he'll move around. You know, and we'll see how much he play. You know, it's like you said, he'll compete. But as you guys know, we it's play by play. We're going to move the guys around. They need to know multiple positions. They need to be smart enough to do that. All of our receivers are, and he fits in that mold as well. But one of the things I like on his tape is I like him outside. I think he's very good versus press. I think he's got length and vertical speed to get down the field. I think for his size, he's a very good route runner. He's going to, you know, but so it'll be fun to see him grow and develop and compete over these next couple months.
With what you've done with Pierce and some undrafted guys at receiver, does that alter your approach with your thoughts on T.Y.?
No, I mean, well, like I've said all along, I still think he can still play. We'll work through that here over the next week. Now we'll see. We'll work through it.
Really hope that means that T.Y. Hilton's going to be back here very soon. Oh, and by the way, for the Granson thing, no, I don't think this means at all that Granson's gone. I know we did the same thing with Marlon Mack in 2020, right? Now, granted, I understand now that, you know, things got away, and obviously when it came down to it, Marlon Mack did eventually become the odd man out. I don't think they want Granson gone, because Granson still has a lot of potential still left in him, but I'm not ready to make a argument for that just because Granson's not in the mix at the moment. We're just talking so much about Mo Cox, and we're talking about Jelani Woods. Again, every team runs 3 tight ends. I mean, some teams run 4 tight ends. You know, I mean, and the Colts know that, you know, the tight end position has been a position that we've oftentimes had a lot of injuries go through that position a lot. So, you know, I mean, having a guy like Granson as your 3rd tight end would mean quite a bit. And who's to say Granson even is the 3rd tight end? I mean, what if he actually is tight end number 2, you know, going into this? I mean, Jelani Woods, we know what Jelani Woods can become, but, you know, he's got to get there first, right? I mean, Granson's been a tight end for a lot longer than Jelani Woods has, you know, probably is the better tight end at this moment in time, especially since, you know, he's been in the NFL for a year, so he understands how it goes. But it's one of those things, you know, you just got to be careful about how you approach that, because Granson can still play.
Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Being with the scouting staff shortly here.
All right. And that is day 3, the Ballard and Reich presser for the end of the draft. Very curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And thank you guys again for all the likes and support. Greatly appreciate it. I saw some guys talking about some of the talking about the undrafted free agents, and I think a couple of them that really stick out to me. Number 1 is JoJo, the linebacker from Wisconsin. I mean, some people were saying he should have been drafted in like the 4th round. And Bobby, the Browns drafted David Bell. So JoJo being undrafted and being able to be signed by Indianapolis is a huge thing. Don't be surprised if he's competing for JoJo's from Nebraska. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Wisconsin. My bad. They're the same colors, are they not? But yeah, it's funny because, you know, that kind of guy being there to compete is definitely a great thing. I think he's going to do a fantastic job everywhere. And Woods is like a Trey Burton type that can run the Wildcat. I mean, listen, he was a quarterback at one point. He was a quarterback. So he knows how to do that stuff. And he is athletic. So you never know. I mean, they could do something like there's something that could happen for that. JoJo dropped, I don't quote me on this. I think it was injuries. I think there was some kind of injury concern. That's why a lot of these guys dropped. That's why Justin Ross didn't get drafted because of a spine injury. Carson Strong didn't get drafted because of his knee being blown out. You know, there was a lot of those that was in this draft. And I think some of the running backs that they got, I mean, are very interesting. Devontae Price and CJ Verdell. I look for those guys to potentially take a mark. And I don't remember. Ryan Vandermark, I think, was the other one. He had the 3rd highest fully guaranteed money of any undrafted free agent that was signed over the weekend. So I think it's a very fair indication that the Colts are really high on Vandermark, because, you know, you're not paying a guy $175,000, you know, in fully guaranteed money as an undrafted free agent if you didn't think that he was going to end up doing something. So JoJo had 2 ACLs and was a 6-year guy. Jeez. Talk about a rough start there, huh? But yeah, I mean, even ESPN thought he was going to get drafted in like the 4th round. And, you know, to see him drop to an undrafted free agent is insane. But I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. Just appreciate you guys hanging out with me and watching the end of the day presser of day 3. Just wanted to react to that because I never got a chance to do it Saturday night because I was doing a whole bunch of other things going on. But again, thank you all again so much for thank you guys again so much for tuning in and showing all your support over the last few days. And thank you again for everyone that was tuning into this stream. I mean, I did not expect 300 plus of you to be in here, but I greatly appreciate it. Again, be sure to like the stream, guys, if you can. Help get it to more people. And be sure to comment and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Have gotten over 200 new subscribers over the last few days. Greatly appreciate you guys. And also be on the lookout for giveaways. I fully expect once we know all the players' names and everything, numbers and everything else, we're going to probably be giving out some jerseys coming up here shortly. We're planning to give a Yannick Ngakoue jersey out, a Stephon Gilmore jersey as well. Maybe we will give up a few rookie jerseys as well once we figure those out. And also be on the lookout for more content. We're going to have a little bit more end of the draft content. We might potentially have a chance to talk with some of the rookies at some point, asking them about their journey and being selected by the Colts. So again, keep on the lookout for all that, guys. Thank you all so much again for the continued support. Thank you, BTJ fam. And as always, guys, go Colts.